Hey everybody, just back today for a couple of things. I was going to show a little bit of what I was working on and some things I've got in the mix with games and coming up this week and some stuff I'm working on right now to support that. But as well, the main reason to start the video is I just wanted to tell everybody that we are doing a preseason show this week for the Musty Wargamer Season 3. So Rusty and I will be doing that. It will be, the preseason show will be this Thursday, normal time. It's going to be essentially 9 Central or 8 Mountain. That would also be 10 Eastern. And it'll be here on my channel. And then we'll be then doing the next one as usual, going over to Rusty's for the season, first episode of the Season 3. And so we don't have any topics planned for this preseason show. It's mainly, I'm guessing, going to be talking about our summers and, you know, latest hobby stuff, potentially stuff that's going on news-wise that we find interesting, and even talking about, you know, our next challenge most likely. And so, you know, I didn't even talk to Rusty, but I'm sure other stuff will come up. So if you want to come over and share a musty drink while you're painting or not, sharing a musty drink, it's up to you, doesn't matter, but come and join us, and that'll be lots of fun for the next season this year. And so what I was going to show is just a couple things today that I'm doing, specific to the fantasy stuff. I've got a bit of a French Indian War update that I'm going to do in a separate video. But I showed these recently. If you guys are on the Musty Wargamers Facebook page, then you may have seen these already. But I've actually gotten a lot of progress done, even since my latest photos on that page. And, you know, compared to last time, you know, because I started out with the fur/skin on these things, I've actually painted the bases, and I've painted a lot of the accessories, you know, be it weapons, clothing. Not much that clothing on these guys, but I've you know, I started on the faces of the actual heads, which if you're a Beastman painter, then you got to get used to painting lots of severed heads, human heads in most cases, but in this case it's dwarves too. Like, there's actually a dwarven head that's severed right there. Lots of skulls too. And so yeah, I'm kind of getting pretty far on these. I actually took a break today from painting because, and I'll talk about this more in a second, but I'm getting ready to play a Saga Age of Magic game, and I'm not using my Beastmen army yet because I'm not quite ready. But I needed to take a day, I have a day off today because I'm actually working this upcoming weekend, and I took a day to, besides take care of some errands and normal boring stuff, I took a day to just kind of sit down and read some rules, and also make some Saga dice, and I'll show that here in a second. But yeah, this is you know, going well. I've really enjoyed painting these, and I don't know, I guess it's because I've taken a little bit of a break during the summer. I guess that happens, but I really enjoyed my session painting these so far. I know I'm not finished, but I actually have been cycling through Jethro Tull albums, just from like their very beginning stuff, and just something about Jethro Tull and the flute, and you know, I like Jethro Tull. I wouldn't say that I'm like a diehard fan or anything, but I kind of was just in the mood to listen to them, and so I went back, and something about the flute and the rock and the way they do their music just had me so into the Beastman stuff. Like, I was like rocking to Jethro Tull and this flute in the background and like painting these Beastmen, and I was totally getting into the chaotic aspect of it, and so it really helped me pass the time. And so it was a lot of fun. And yeah, so I'm going to get back to this. I'm actually going to show what's up next and talk a little bit about that in a moment. But I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to switch to my Orcs and Goblins stuff on another table, because I want to talk about Saga Age of Magic and my first go at this, because I'm trying it out this week. So I'm just going to pan. So this is the sort of list that I'm thinking about using for the most part for my Saga Age of Magic game. So I'm going to be doing an Orcs and Goblins or a Horde style list. Mainly it's because I can throw this together. I'm not finished with my Beastmen, and I am eventually wanting to use my Goblin stuff too, and Orcs. I've got lots of stuff to do working Goblins within Age of Magic, and also 6th edition, and other editions of Warhammer Fantasy. I almost said 40k there, just almost rolled off my tongue. And so just going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing here. And before I get to the list, what I spent actually a fair bit of time today is actually doing these. I actually got blank Saga dice and ended up just printing off the labels. And I use a shipping label and then just use a razor and just kind of put them on here. And then I just sprayed like a hobby style varnish, matte varnish over it. And, I think they're going to do the trick. I mean, I'm not against buying Saga dice. I actually really like my 2 sets of Saga dice that I bought for the historical stuff. I actually think, despite the fact that they're expensive, they're kind of worth it because they're a huge part of the game, and they're pretty good quality dice in my mind. But when I first was picking up a lot of the Age of Magic stuff, a lot of it was kind of hard to come by. I couldn't really find a lot of it, and when I was able to get the rules, they didn't have the dice available, or they only had one set. And to play this, you would need at least 2 sets. If you're going to use sorcerers, you're going to need a magic set and whatever the set is for your faction, which there are 2 across the, I think, 6 to 8 factions. I'm not sure. I think it's 6. And so essentially everybody's going to really want 3 sets of dice, because in most cases you're probably going to want to try the baddies and the goodies, like, the good guys and the bad guys within the general theme of things, because that's the way they sort of separate your 2 faction dice. Everybody uses the same magic dice, but the other ones are kind of like whether you're part of the more good order or the bad order, the lists in there. And so, because I couldn't find them, I thought I actually just ordered 3 different colors of blank dice on eBay and just printed these off. And I think these will do me for a while. I mean, if I really like the game and I want to, I'll start collecting the actual proprietary ones, but I think these are going to be fine for me. And so we'll see. Most of the people that I've kind of put a message up on Facebook just asking about whether they varnish them, and most of the people seem to find that they work for them. So I almost think it's not an issue. So that was kind of neat. It did take me some time, to be quite honest. As I was doing it, I kind of was thinking to myself, man, I probably should have just bought these, but because it did take me some time. But now that they're done, I'll do one more set, and there you go. A little bit of cash saved, I suppose, for something else. So I can't even get the whole army in here because I have a mastodon on the left. I'll just let you know what my thought was here. I didn't, I wanted to, essentially, the basics are, I'm using, my warlord is going to be on an animal mount, and so it's goblin boss, just a regular weapon, not a heavy weapon. I've got a sorcerer. I haven't even read through the spell section. I'm actually going to do that tonight with a drink. I'm going to just sort of sit down and read through, because I've been reading the rules, but I've not gotten kind of committed to that part yet. But I know I have to pick 3 spells for this sorcerer, and I have to read how magic works in this game still. I wanted to take Hearthguard, and the one problem I had with this army is that a lot of the goblins just look alike, and they're just goblins, GW goblins, and you have to do... I mean, in many cases, when I go orcs and goblins later, it'll be easy to just have orcs as Hearthguard or orc warriors and have goblins as levy or something to that effect. But for now, I'm just doing my Hearthguard in this game as goblin wolf riders that have spear and shield, and so they're going to be Hearthguard. It'll be very easy to think of goblins with bows as just levy, because that's the only way you can have levy for this unit is archers, for the horde. And so that makes total sense. And then for warriors, something in between, I just decided to pick warriors, which you can have mounted warriors with bows. And so I'm actually taking goblin wolf riders with bows. So 1 unit of warriors. So there's 8 here. They'll travel together. There's 2 units of 4-person Hearthguard, and then 1 unit of 12 of the archers. So that's like my classic Saga type units for this game. And then the new ones I needed to pick, because, well, the sorcerer was 1. But then I have, I'm going to use some bipedal creatures, and so they're called creatures to be differentiated from monsters. Because, the sorcerer is like a new type of unit. I believe the lieutenant is as well, and I'll talk about him in a second. The creatures are a group that are new types of units, and within the creatures there are bipedal creatures, and I'm using minotaurs. Now, I don't own trolls, I think these are actually miniatures I didn't even paint. They're ones that are ready to be, they're going to be in the bath. I mean, these are actually painted pretty nice, but they're pretty good. But I'm going to just use them because I just had them in the queue of things to do later, and they're already painted. And I thought these will be great bipedal, creatures. And so 1 point of Saga, or one sort of unit, is 2 of the bipedal creatures. And so I have 2 minotaurs here, and then another 2 there. So I'm going to be using 2 units of those. Last is I'm using what I believe is called the Behemoth. I don't have the book around in front of me. I know there is one that is called a Titan and one's a Scourge, and I believe this one is called the Behemoth. But it is essentially, this is my Savage Core Mastodon. I didn't use a giant because really, for these size creatures, this is almost even getting towards the small size. Like, they're meant to be big creatures on the table, and my giants that I have are sort of classic Citadel metal giants, and they're not that much bigger than these guys, and they're actually would be probably more suited to be a Titan anyway. And so I was trying to think of what I could use as a Behemoth. I do have some of the plastic GW giants that are, they'll stand up to here. I mean, they would work well, for a Titan or even potentially a Behemoth. But I don't have them painted, and I'll show them in a moment. I am going to use them, and I'm painting them primarily to play Age of Magic, those GW plastic giants. And so I think actually this would be great, though. I'm just kind of slapping this list together to be able to get a handle of the rules. And it's painted, and, it's like this big Behemoth, it's come through and stomping on everybody and running tusks through stuff, or getting killed, whichever. And so that will be my Behemoth. This is going to be 8 points of Saga, so that's it really. Now I have this guy back here. I was considering using a Lieutenant. The way Lieutenant works is, as I understand it, is you basically take about half of your point of something away. So I could take one of these bipedal creatures away and have him perhaps run with the other group and have a group of 3, and then actually replace him with a Lieutenant. Now, the Horde's Lieutenant looks pretty good from the rules, because each Lieutenant is a little bit different within each faction, and he's pretty good. I mean, he seems to be kind of heavy-handed in his ability as a Horde Lieutenant, pretty martial. And so, might be a good idea in the future, but as I was thinking about all this, I kind of thought, I'm already running 3 types of units that I've never run before, so it doesn't hurt my feelings not to run a 4th. I understand really well how to use the Warlord, how to use Hearthguard, Levy, and Warriors. Having said that, I don't actually play any mounted units, so even though they've been part of the game, even back to 1st edition, I've never really ran mounted stuff, because I've always run either Anglo-Danes or now Scots, and so my Scots don't have horseback. I mean, there's some that have them, but the Anglo-Danes in version 1 didn't have any access to horses, and so at least not with the standard units, going outside of the standard Anglo-Danes. And so a lot of this is going to be a little bit different for me. I play enough against Normans to know how basic mounted units work, so that's not going to be too much of an issue. But yeah, definitely the new units will be a little bit different. In particular, there's a lot of special new rules, for the fantasy. In particular, like the Behemoth, probably there's a number of new rules, and then the Magic are probably the 2 of those that I think are going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to have to brush up and kind of pay attention to what I'm doing. So that's my Horde faction to play my first game of Saga Age of Magic, if anybody's interested. And I'm actually kind of excited about it. The more I kind of dug into it, the more I was getting excited preparing for it. So I'm actually just going to pan again over to a little work table I have set up in my hobby room with stuff on it. And I'm just going to talk about what is up next for what I'm thinking about doing for the Old Hammer Painting Challenge, as well as, and closely related to that, is what's up next for my Beastmen army. So be right back. So I have a bunch of stuff pulled out, and this isn't even all inclusive of my Beastmen stuff, to still do. But I've been trying to think of what I want to do priority painting wise, we are planning on doing. We're going to announce it, but we are planning in the near future of starting another painting challenge for the Oldhammer stuff. And typically, I do something different. Like the Oldhammer painting challenges, in most cases, exclusively, I use them as a way to grab something that I just haven't painted yet. That's like an old miniature or something I want to do, and in particular something different. But I'll be quite honest. I have a lot of stuff that I really want to try to accomplish with getting my Beastmen painted and gaming to do with using them, and my Orcs and Goblins in the near future. And so I really need to use this Oldhammer challenge to work on a lot of my old miniatures that I want to play with right now, as opposed to just grabbing something totally different. So I'm probably going to definitely, in my next Oldhammer challenge that we do, or to grab something out of the closet, like something that I'm not currently working on, but with this one it's going to be fairly relevant for me. And so but you guys have seen my Beastmen already, but I'm actually going to try to part out some of my various units in order to be able to facilitate playing Age of Magic with the Beastmen army. Now I'm going to balance that in that instead of just using exactly what I need for Age of Magic, in which case might only be like 2 or 4 miniatures or 3. I'm going to try to, in some cases, do something where I can still use them for the Warhammer Fantasy, even if it's just as a small unit. So as an example, I've decided that I have basically of these style Minotaurs, which are like the 2 that are on the table still over there. If you take those 2 that are on the table and you add them with all of these ones that are in pieces here, here, a couple there with standards, these, and then some up here. I have a Wargore there of that style, like a general type, but then I have basically 16 to 18 of these style Minotaurs. Now, I don't need that by any means for Saga Age of Magic, but they will make a huge hammer of a unit, to center around, potentially in a Minotaur-based themed Beastmen army. And so in the future, I definitely will paint all of them. But for now, I think what I'm going to do is just paint 6. So I could essentially have 3 units of Minotaurs. These ones here, I'm going to be repainting all of them. Those are like the others, but I'm going to grab just the 2-handed ones. So these are going to be like heavy weapon Minotaurs, essentially. And I'm going to just paint up 6 of them, and then I'll be able to use them as either a group of 3 in Warhammer Fantasy, as I remember it, or even as a group of 6. Perhaps 2 groups of 3, something to that effect. I know they're kind of in groups of 3 in Warhammer Fantasy, so I could even get some entry-level games in with them, but then eventually branch out into the larger amount of Minotaurs. To be honest, I never really set out to do a Minotaur horde, but I do have a pretty nice solid unit of them. I've always kind of wanted to do a Bray herd, with all the gores and ungores and stuff. That's sort of my main focus. Now, I actually have picked up a lot of stuff even since the last video. These giants here are not new. I picked these up from a friend, and he sort of assembled these. I put the actual epoxy sculpt on here. Then he ended up not needing them. So I kind of got these on the cheap, and I'm kind of really glad, even though I haven't painted them yet, that I did pick them up. They're black, so it's really hard to see, but the way he did one of them here, he's got the horns, and he's really going to be a great Beastman giant, I think, for Age of Magic, because you want that size on the table. Now, I could paint these 2 guys up to be like brothers or twins or whatever, but they're modeled a little different, and I kind of have different plans for them. I'm going to use this one as primarily my Beastman giant, because I think he looks like a Chaos giant with those horns coming out of the side of his head. And then this one here, holding the guy and having the barrel on his side, he has this sort of bone jaw on his mouth, and he looks to me like he's going to be more my Orcs and Goblins giant. So when I'm doing either for Age of Magic or whatever I'm going to do, I could use him as a Orcs and Goblins giant. So that's my plan for those 2 guys there, and I'm probably going to paint this guy for sure in the near future. Now, I don't really consider that Oldhammer for me, so I'm not really going to do it as part of the challenge, but he'll be done soon. This is a guy that I found that I still need to paint. He definitely is. I may do him in the challenge. He's an alternative cloud giant. So I have some more really old Minotaurs there. I'm really saving those kind of things, like, and the two of the really older ones that I just showed. There were 4 there. 2 are new, 2 are old. Those are going to be for when I'm actually kind of rewarding myself with painting some really nice old miniatures in the future. Like when I work on some of my really old gores that I've not gotten to yet, I'm going to kind of pull out some of those old miniatures and do them around the same time. Those are little rewarding pieces to do as I'm getting through this huge lead pile of Beastmen, is to paint some of the really older ones. And I have some lords and generals and stuff. These are like chaos. These are like Beastmen lords, really. I picked these up recently. Now these two are the same, and what I've decided, I bought these from the same seller. One's painted, one isn't. And what I decided is that I would pick them both up because they're kind of getting harder and harder to find. And I thought I'll use one from Mordheim and use him as an alternative Beast Lord, or some sort of like a champion of some sort. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to base him like on my cobblestone street, like I did my Mordheim unit. And then the other one I'm going to use for everything else, like that I'm just talking about, like both Warhammer Fantasy and Age of Magic. And so that would definitely be the plan for that. Now, this is sort of this guy's of the same era. Gosh, he's got the base in here so you can't see him as well. But he basically is holding 2 hand weapons. And what I'm going to do is I think I may lump him into this Oldhammer painting challenge, because I'd like to get this guy on foot as I'm looking at having several options for war bosses in warlords, I should say, in Age of Magic. And I would use him as a Chaos Lord in Warhammer Fantasy, but I'm thinking about using him as a warlord, like that I would want on foot if I ever wanted him on foot, sort of an entry level warlord. So I think I'm going to put him into my pile of things to do, like over here with these Minotaurs, as part of the challenge. Now, I actually have something that I've gotten that I've been looking for a year, but it's in the mail from Australia, and I have a Shaggoth Dragon Ogre metal, brand new in the box, sealed. Oh no, actually he's unsealed, but he's in the box and brand new and never painted. And he will be another one that in both my Warhammer Fantasy army and my Age of Magic that I'm looking at using. I'm thinking about using him as like a mounted warlord, because he's a Shaggoth, so he's like reptilian, and basically using him also they give you the option of using him as a heavy weapon, and the traditional sculpt has a 2-handed axe. So I may use him that way, or I may even, because he's big enough, it's possible I'll use him. I have to see how big it is on the table, but I may even be able to use him as some sort of creature, like a monster as well. I have to think about that. But I don't think I'll get him in time for this challenge, but he's going to be in the near future. Now, I just have a mess of stuff here. This is my Beastmen box, where I just have everything scattered in here. So I've got like a lot of old stuff, like those gores that I was referring to. My old gores are these types that I just can't wait to do. And I have a lot of other kinds like that in here. I have more Minotaur. I have another old Minotaur here to do, and another one behind that. Or another... Yeah, that is another one there. I didn't even pull him out. And I've got this one that I just... A nice old one, too. I've got so many Minotaurs, I don't even... It's great, actually. So I've got 3 chariots here, just in pieces. More Ungor skirmishers and more gores. These are all gores that I'll do. More champions and things like that. I'm actually gonna probably not do any of these in this box here for this challenge. Like, this is all gonna be stuff for the future. And this is a brand new chariot, so this is my 4th one I have that's brand new that I'll do for the future. But what I do think I might include with this is, these are my Bestigors, my big unit of Bestigors. And I think what I'm going to do is parse these down to something over what I need for Age of Magic, but less than what I really, like less than what they are, or a big unit for Warhammer Fantasy. So I'm thinking something like... since I'm looking to use them as Hearthguard for Age of Magic, I'm thinking foot Hearthguard, I should say. I'm thinking of maybe doing them with like a standard and a musician, and maybe doing something like 12 to 20, like in that area. I don't think these are going to be actually as challenging. I've loved painting my Ungors and my Gors. I don't think these are going to be as challenging as those ones as far as the skin tones, only because there's so much mail on them. Like, they're heavily armored. But I'm kind of a little undecided right now because I have some other thoughts for Hearthguard for Age of Magic. I'm actually thinking of doing Centaurs as mounted Hearthguard for my Beastmen in Saga. And so in which case I would probably do between 4 to 8, 1 to 2 units of those. And so I'm a little up in the air whether I'm going to do these or the Centaurs, just to get going with the Beastmen for Saga. I probably don't need 2 different types of Hearthguard just to start playing them, but those are definitely my plans. So that is, for the most part, what I'm actually thinking of doing, just in the near future with the Beastman stuff. I do also have several other bags of stuff up, like I have Warhounds, and I don't even know. I have to go through all of it. I have Dragon Ogres, like not the Shaggoth ones, but other Dragon Ogres and things like that. And so I have lots of thoughts on things that I can do. But I'm thinking just the 6 Minotaurs, the Champion, and some sort of Hearthguard is probably what I'll focus on for the challenge. I think that'll be enough. And it'll actually be, in some cases, big for what I do for a challenge, usually. I also picked this guy up, too. I don't know if I showed it on the channel yet, but this is Morgur, and he's basically, like he's a hero, within Warhammer Fantasy Beastmen, but he's a sorcerer, and he's kind of a larger model than, like, the sorcerers that I have currently, the shamans, I should say. I call him a sorcerer because of Age of Magic. He's a shaman, he's a lead, but he's more of like a great shaman, and so he's one that I'll be wanting to paint soon too. I don't know that I'm going to do him as part of the challenge here. I think that's a good question. I don't know whether I should just use my shamans that I have right now for Age of Magic. I think I might just use my little Beastmen shamans that I painted, and then get to this guy later. He's going to be a bit of an interesting sculpt to paint because he's literally, he's kind of hard to see his face, like if you're not familiar with him. That's like his face right there. But he literally is like sculpted metal, magic, ethereal stuff all around him, and I've seen many people paint him. I'll be quite honest, I think he's going to be a challenging paint job in the sense that I think it's going to require some ingenuity and perhaps some wet blending and some real thinking about how I want the ethereal effects painted, It's like painting smoke and things like that. Like, it can be challenging depending on how you're going to do it, particularly when it's magic. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to do that on this challenge. I think I'm going to set aside some time to focus on that one. I may end up doing him alongside the Shaggoth, because I think he's also going to be a nice character model that I want to spend some time on. So I know this one's gone a little long. Thank you for those that have actually stayed for the whole talk. And yeah, like I said in the beginning of the show, join us for the Musty Wargamers preseason show this Thursday here on this channel, 8 Mountain, 9 Central, and take care.